What is up, everybody? Welcome to Flex or Fade for Week 5. This is the show where Chris K and I decide whether or not a player will be in our player pool. We decide whether or not we will be flexing them and including them in that pool, or be fading them and excluding them from that player pool. This week, we're talking receivers, specifically here, Xavier Worthy of the Texas Longhorns. He is coming in at 6,500 this week against Kansas. He is a player that I am pretty excited about playing this week, despite some lower volume in the previous weeks. Jumping in here, I mean, we look at his target distribution over the first 4 weeks. We've got 10 targets against Rice. We've got 10 against Bama, and then dropping off to 6, and then 3 against Wyoming and Baylor. My expectation, I don't want to put any words or fuel the fire for Chris's argument here, but I expect that it's going to be a pretty volume-based assessment. But the rationale that I have and why I like Worthy, not only do I like the depressed price point because of that volume decrease over the past few weeks, I think this Kansas game is going to be a pretty high-scoring one, and I think it's going to be pretty competitive. Kansas has played Texas very close over the last few years. Since bringing in their coach, he has been very consistent with the way that they get up for these bigger games and these more marquee matchups against Big 12 competition. With the target distribution, I think we can explain away why Worthy was kind of game scripted out of Wyoming and Baylor. The Rice game seems like a little bit of an anomaly. That offense rolling for Bama in week 2 and really have things humming along for that offense. So I think in games where they know that they're going to be challenged more offensively, I think Worthy is going to get those touches, and I think that this is a game where they're going to need those points. 38 or 39 point team total this week for them seems like a decent shot to get some touchdown variance going his way. But just overall, at 6,500, I think that he is a nice play compared to some of the other more expensive receivers this week. What about you, Kay?
Yeah, he's certainly not a bad play. I like him in general, but I worry. Obviously, right? Volume. I'm the same thing every week. I'm a broken record, but volume is interesting for him. I think you can explain why we saw a decrease in those 2 games that were not really all that competitive more recently. But even when he had the 10 targets, he still only had like 16 and 19 points. So it just feels like if he's still going to get 8 to 10 targets, it's still going to be like a trek to get to 20s, which I think like a receiver in this price range, we probably need 20 something points. I wonder how much they continue to push the run game, because it has started to suddenly look really good. Do they try to push the run game and keep that moving, and maybe they throw it a little bit less? And it's just a really deep team. Jatavian Sanders has looked awesome. A.D. Mitchell. I bet Jordan Whittington unders all day, but if that's your 4th option, that's really a pretty strong receiving group. So I lean a little bit towards all the other guys, and I think that Worthy's upside is just not there. You're right. The team total is enticing. I would say he's the best receiver on the team. I think part of the problem with him is that he runs these deep routes, and he just, Jared was preaching this all off season. He's got to start. They have to start connecting on him.
Yeah.
And then the upside's huge, right? He could go if they started connecting on these deep shots, they could go 5 for 200. But it's just a matter of they haven't. Yeah, and thus, I think I would just look elsewhere. It's certainly not a bad play. I'm really curious to hear what everybody's thoughts are on this one. I'm fading him. Ethan's flexing him. We have another guy that we'll talk about in the same price range that we are obviously reversed on. So curious to hear your thoughts in the Discord. Let us know.